Alright, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakapadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. Slakia. And today I just want to go into this video that I came across yesterday. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I found it interesting, so I'm just going to go into it a little bit. I'm going to make this a two-part video. And I'm going to entitle this, The Weapons of His Indignation. So, Lord willing, this lesson is edifying and for the sake of YouTube, using this video for use purposes only.
Since the breakout of war in Europe, things have escalated significantly. Declaration of the annexation of 4 regions in eastern and southern Ukraine signals the onset of a new and highly dangerous phase, one that American officials and analysts fear could escalate to the use of nuclear weapons for the first time in 77 years. Today we're going to explore the worst case scenario. How would the United States respond to a Russian nuclear escalation in Europe? The hard truth is that since 1949, there has only been one response the United States has planned for. It's Major Attack Option 1. But how exactly would an American thermonuclear attack on the Russian Federation play out? What exactly is America's Russian nuclear war plan? How many nuclear weapons would be launched on direct order from the president? How many Russian casualties could we expect after American bombs reach their destinations? How would Russia respond? What risk would America's civilian population face? What would the European continent look like going forward? And most importantly, could the United States defeat Russia in a global thermonuclear exchange?
Now, before I continue, the answer to that is no. America will not defeat Russia in World War III.
When people imagine a nuclear war, the first thing that comes to mind is large cities like Los Angeles and Moscow being incinerated in a blaze of nuclear hellfire. While this would definitely be a likely outcome, the reality is that around 70% of the 1,800 nuclear warheads currently deployed by the United States aren't aimed at large cities, but instead at an enemy country's nuclear forces. To better understand this, we first need to take a look at America's current strategic nuclear war plan, also known as the Single Integrated Operational Plan, or SIOP. First drawn up in 1950, the SIOP focused primarily on the Soviet Union. While today most of the weapons in the war plan still target Russia, other countries such as China, North Korea, India, and Pakistan are included as well. In this video, we'll take a look at a nuclear exchange with the only nuclear power comparable to the United States, the Russian Federation. This portion of America's nuclear war plan is called Major Attack Option 1. Major Attack Option 1 is the most demanding attack option available to the president. Should the Commander-in-Chief order Major Attack Option 1, the resulting attack would consist of over 1,000 warheads. Major Attack Option 1 is divided into 2 attack options. The Counterforce Attack Plan targets Russia's nuclear forces, while the Counter-Value Attack Plan targets Russian civilian population centers and economic infrastructure, assets that Russia inherently values. First, let's take a look at America's Counterforce Attack Option, as it's the most demanding and most likely attack option to be selected by the president. The counterforce portion of Major Attack Option 1 targets Russia's nuclear forces, including ICBM silos, road mobile ICBMs, submarine bases, primary airfields, nuclear storage facilities, design and production complexes, and critical military command and control facilities. The first and most important target in Major Attack Option 1 is Russia's silo-based ICBMs. Russia has 126 operational ICBM silos distributed throughout 4 missile fields. The 28th Guards Missile Division at Kazilsk with 20 ICBM silos, the 60th Guards Missile Division at Tatashevo housing 60 ICBM silos, the 13th Missile Division at Domvorotsky with 24 ICBM silos, and the 62nd Missile Division at Yuzhe with 22 silos. Russia's land-based ICBM force consists of 4 missiles. 46 SS-18 Satans, armed with 1 or 2 800-kiloton MIRV warheads per missile. 2 SS-19 Mod 4s, armed with 1 550-kiloton hypersonic glide vehicle warhead per missile. 60 SS-27 Mod 1s, armed with 1 800-kiloton warhead per missile. And 18 SS-27 Mod 2s, armed with up to 4 550-kiloton MIRV warheads per missile.
So it's lucky I'm going to make stops, in between clips, but I'm going to start in the book of Isaiah chapter 54 and verse 16, and it says, "Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals and the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. I have created the waster to destroy," and that's what this is talking about, these ICBM missiles. The Lord gave these German scientists, the knowledge to be able to create these weapons, That's the reason why this is going to be the war to end all wars, So I'm going to bring that out as well before I continue. And Salakia, still coming down from a cold. Here's the book of Isaiah, chapter 9 and verse 5. It says, "For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire." And yes, that's what this particular war is going to consist of, because all battles, all war is pretty much leading up to, World War I and II, primarily World War II, were fought, hand-to-hand combat, with swords, with spears and shields and such, Now, pretty much this war is going to be fought with, nuclear capabilities, The only thing they're going to have to do is just press a button. And this is how this war is going to be fought,
When launched, these missiles travel at speeds of over 16,000 miles per hour, have ranges of up to 10,000 miles, and typically reach their target or targets in around 30 minutes. Altogether, these 126 missiles carry 211 warheads, representing 15% of the strategic nuclear weapons currently deployed by Russia. When added up, Russia's land-based ICBM force can deliver a total explosive yield of 150,000 kilotons, or 19,000 times the destructive power of the bomb dropped on Nagasaki in 1945. As with all things, there are advantages and disadvantages when attacking Russia's silo-based ICBMs. The primary advantage is that their locations are commonly known, and therefore they can be easily targeted. The primary disadvantage of attacking Russian ICBM silos is their fast launch time. Like the US ICBM force, they can be quickly launched. As a result, they need to be the first target hit in a first strike. Secondly, Russia's ICBM silos are a high threat due to their long-range targeting ability and high weapon payload. It's believed that Russia's silo-based ICBMs are exclusively reserved for targets in the US. Furthermore, destroying Russia's entire ICBM force in a preemptive strike can be problematic. When attacking Russia's silo-based ICBMs with nuclear weapons, one of the most critical metrics a US war planner must determine is silo survivability. Silo survivability is calculated with a probability of kill, or kill probability. A Russian silo's kill probability depends on 3 factors: the hardness of the silo, the size or yield of the warhead delivered to the target, and the total number of warheads used to attack each silo. A silo's hardness determines its ability to withstand the effects of a thermonuclear explosion, and thus protect the underground missile. Taking a silo's hardness and other factors such as launch malfunctions and warhead detonation failures into account. U.S. war planners would assign 2 high-yield warheads per silo to achieve an average kill probability of 99.5%. The United States would want to hit these silos hard and fast, so they would use sea-based ballistic missile submarines to get the job done. Ballistic missile submarines are optimal due to the higher yield warheads that they carry, their closer locations at sea, and shorter flight times, which would give Russia virtually zero warning before bombs are already hitting their targets. The attack would use a total of 252 nuclear warheads, delivered from 63 Trident II missiles, with 2 475 kiloton W-88 warheads targeting each silo. The attack would expend 25% of the US's sea-based ICBM force. Delivery time would be around 15 minutes from launch, and silos would be hit with ground burst detonations. Remember the term ground burst. This will be important later. Up next, we have Russia's nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine bases and naval facilities. The Russian Navy operates 10 nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines of 2 classes, 5 Delta IV and 5 Borealis class submarines. Each submarine can carry up to 16 submarine-launched ballistic missiles, with each missile armed with up to 4 100-kiloton warheads. The total number of warheads carried by Russia's nuclear submarine force is around 600 warheads. Today, the principal Russian naval targets for U.S. strategic nuclear weapons are likely to be the ballistic missile submarine basing areas of the Northern Fleet and Pacific Fleet. 7 nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines are deployed at 2 Northern Fleet bases, and 3 nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines are deployed at 1 Pacific Fleet base. Since not all of Russia's nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines are fully operational, with either 1 or 2 at various stages of maintenance, war planners must assume that many, most, or possibly all of the submarines docked at naval bases are at some stage of alert, and thus are potential stationary firing platforms. Therefore, targeting nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine bases would be a top priority. War planners must also consider the possibility that Russian nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines might disperse to other naval bases. As a result, other targets would include naval shipyards, ship repair yards, weapon communication centers, fleet headquarters, and refueling facilities. To achieve this, Russia's Northern Fleet would be targeted with a total of 92 330-kiloton W-87 warheads, delivered by Minuteman III ICBMs. Narapicha Naval Base would be hit with 8 warheads, while Yegelnaya Naval Base would require 10. Russia's Pacific Fleet would be sufficiently destroyed using 45 Minuteman III ICBMs. Rabaki Naval Base alone would be hit with 12 330-kiloton warheads. A total of 137 Minuteman III ICBMs would reach their naval targets within 30 minutes after launch, with a near 100% predicted kill rate, using ground bursts. Up next, we have Russia's Strategic Bomber Force. The Russian Air Force currently...
So lucky. And before I continue again, I'm going to bring out the book of Job, chapter 20, verse 24. And this is... Lucky. I'm going to start at verse 23. It's the book of Job, chapter 20 and 23. And it says, when he is about to fill his belly, Yahweh shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him, and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. He shall flee from the iron weapon, and the bow of steel shall strike him through. It is drawn and cometh out of the body. Yea, the glittering sword cometh out of his gall. Terrors are upon him. Salakia. And again, that's pretty much is what is being described in this video. These missiles, that are going to be used to take this man down, because he came into power by way of fire, and he's going to be taken out of power by way of fire, In verse 26, and it says, all darkness shall be hid in his secret places. A fire not blown out shall consume him. It shall go ill with him that is left in his tabernacle. And yes, once these missiles are launched and they hit their specific targets, the fire from these missiles, they're going to burn for a while, So, continuing on.
Currently operates a fleet of 50 strategic bombers. Russia's strategic bombers are organized into 7 bomber regiments and 2 heavy bomber divisions at 4 bases. The 52nd Heavy Bomber Regiment at Shakova Air Force Base, the 22nd Heavy Bomber Division at Angles Air Force Base, the 200th Guards Heavy Bomber Aviation Regiment at Bela Air Force Base, and the 326th Heavy Bomber Division at Ukrainian Air Force Base. There are over 500 nuclear weapons currently deployed at strategic bomber bases within the Russian Federation. Russia's bomber fleet consists of 39 Tu-95 MS Bear H bombers and 11 Tu-160 Blackjack bombers. The Tu-160 Blackjack can carry up to 12 250 kiloton AS-15 Kent air-launched nuclear cruise missiles. Each missile contains 30 times the destructive power of the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The Tu-95S Bear H is a long-range heavy bomber with the ability to travel up to 8,000 miles without refueling. The Tu-95 MS Bear H contains up to 16 250 kiloton AS-23 subsonic air-launched cruise missiles. The main threat to the United States posed by Russian bombers lies in the AS-15 Kent and AS-23 air-launched nuclear cruise missiles that they carry, as it's generally understood that today the chance of Russian bombers penetrating U.S. airspace to drop gravity bombs is near zero. These air-launched nuclear cruise missiles have a range of over 2,400 miles and can be launched just outside of U.S. airspace. When launched, the AS-23 carries its 250 kiloton nuclear warhead, reaching its target in under 2 minutes at speeds of over 16,000 miles per hour. The primary objectives for attacking Russia's strategic bomber force would be to destroy strategic bombers and other aircraft on the ground, crater airfield runways, damage other long-range aviation assets such as fuel storage and aircraft repair and production facilities. An effective attack on Russia's strategic bomber force would focus on the following strategic aviation targets: the main air bases at Shakova, Angles, Bela, and Ukrainia, a training base at Rozan Heavy Bomber Flight Test Center, both Kazan and Kazan Heavy Bomber Production Facilities, forward air bases, and additional air bases that could be used for the dispersing of strategic bombers, refueling tankers, or establishing air bases for potential Russian fighter escorts. A total of 73 300 kiloton W-78 warheads delivered by Minuteman III ICBMs would be allocated to destroy Russia's strategic bomber force, and as a result, grounded planes would be destroyed, runways would be cratered, making it impossible for heavy bombers to take off, and leaving surviving aircraft trapped. Up next, we have Russia's nuclear weapons storage facilities. While Russia has around 2,000 nuclear weapons currently deployed, it has an additional 4,000 nuclear weapons stockpiled at 13 national-level nuclear weapons storage sites. Therefore, destroying Russia's nuclear weapons storage sites would be a top priority. due to their large size and hardened bunkers that are spaced out to ensure that one warhead can't take out an entire complex. Attacking each national-level nuclear weapons storage site will require a strike of 8 W-78 300 kiloton warheads, amounting to a total of 104 Minuteman III ICBMs. These 104 Minuteman III ICBM warheads would reach their nuclear weapons storage targets within 30 minutes after launch, with a near 100% predicted kill rate, using 300 kiloton ground bursts. Up next, we have Russia's nuclear weapon design and production complex. The core of Russia's and formerly Soviet nuclear weapon design and production complex is composed of 10 closed cities and 1 open city. These cities research, develop, test, and produce nuclear weapons that were provided to Soviet armed forces and that were deployed widely against Western militaries. What transpired at these locations throughout the Cold War was a central security concern for the United States and Western Europe for over 40 years. As these secret cities were discovered through U.S. intelligence in the 1950s, they became some of the highest priority targets for U.S. nuclear forces. No doubt, many or all remain on the target list today. The goal of an attack on Russia's nuclear weapon design and production complex would be to eliminate any future nuclear weapon design and production capability by destroying key facilities that contribute to the research, development, and production of Russia's nuclear weapons. U.S. war planners would target nuclear design laboratories, plutonium and tritium production reactors, chemical separation plants, uranium enrichment plants, and warhead assembly facilities. As a result, the attack would consist of 29 warheads, 9 W-87 300 kiloton warheads, and 20 W-78 300 kiloton warheads. The number of targets per city would depend on the number of production facility targets at each location. A total of 29 Minuteman III ICBMs would reach their targets within 30 minutes after launch, detonating via airbursts at a height of 400 meters. Up next, we have Russia's command, control, and communications. In general, there are 3 primary targets associated with Russia's command, control, and communications: space telecommand and Earth satellite stations, and telecommunication centers. The first and most important targets for destroying Russia's military command and control and communications would be 2 space telecommand centers and 44 Earth satellite stations. These 46 satellite facilities perform critical functions that allow communications to flow between Russian leadership and deployed nuclear forces in a time of a crisis. Some of these critical functions include ballistic missile early warning detection, electronic intelligence communications, photo reconnaissance, remote sensing, radar calibration, navigation, meteorology, geodensity, and space activity. Since destroying Russia's satellite communication centers would be a high priority, an attack would be carried out by sea-based ballistic missile submarines, using 46 W-88 warheads delivered from 11 Trident II missiles. 15 minutes after launch, 475 kiloton airbursts would incinerate Russia's satellite and space communication centers, severely degrading Moscow's ability to coordinate a retaliatory nuclear strike.
$69 US Special Forces device turns men into beasts. It emulates 54,000.
The second primary target are Russia's telecommunication centers. These radio frequency broadcast centers serve as the primary communication nodes between Russian military command and its nuclear forces, although 174 targets would be applicable for a strike. Since some of these installations are near high population centers such as Moscow, it's assumed that only 91 targets would be hit with nuclear weapons to limit civilian casualties. 65 targets would be hit with the remaining Minuteman III missiles, being struck with 65 300 kiloton ground burst detonations occurring 30 minutes after launch. The remaining 26 targets would be destroyed with 26 475 kiloton ground burst detonations from 5 Trident II submarine launched ballistic missiles. Up next, we have Russia's road mobile ICBMs. Russia's road mobile ICBM force is comprised of 180 intercontinental ballistic missiles, each mounted on a 7-axle chassis mobile launch vehicle. Russia's land-based road mobile ICBM force carries 3 missiles, 27 SS-25s armed with one 800 kiloton warhead per missile, 18 SS-27 Mod 1s also carrying an 800 kiloton warhead per missile, and 135 SS-27 Mod 2s armed with 4 500 kiloton MIRV warheads per missile. Each missile is mounted on a 14x12 artillery truck, designed and developed by MAZ, Minsk Automobile Plant, in what is now the country of Belarus. This mobile launcher is capable of moving through roadless terrain and launching a missile from any point along its route. When launched, these 3-stage solid-fueled ICBMs have an operational range of 6,800 miles, travel at speeds of up to 16,000 miles per hour, and typically reach their targets in around 30 minutes. Accompanying the missile when it's deployed to the countryside are 2 other vehicles, a 4x4 mobile command post that carries the required support facilities, and a communications relay station that uses tropospheric communication antennas mounted on an extendable mast framework. Russia's road mobile ICBMs are located at 7 bases: Vypolsovo, Taikovo, Yashkar-Ola, Nizhny Tagil, Novosibirsk, Barnaul, and Irkutsk. In general, there are 3 types of targets associated with Russia's road mobile ICBMs: hardened organizational and/or communication structures located at each base, 180 vehicle shelters in the 20 garrisons at each road mobile ICBM base, and any of the 60 groups of 3 ICBM launcher vehicles that may disperse during a nuclear conflict. As with all things, there are advantages and disadvantages when attacking Russia's road mobile ICBMs. The primary advantage is that Russia's road mobile launchers are far easier to destroy than their hardened silo-based counterparts. Disabling a road mobile launcher is simple. The vehicle only needs to be overturned. This is easily achieved with a thermonuclear explosion. Whether located in hardened shelters on one of their 7 bases, or even in the field, several of Russia's road mobile launch vehicles can be threatened and destroyed over an area of approximately 26 square kilometers by a single airburst detonation. Therefore, in the case of a total surprise attack, large numbers of road mobile launch vehicles in an unhardened shelter can be easily destroyed using a small amount of warheads. Secondly, Russia's road mobile ICBMs have a slower response time than their silo-based counterparts. Typically, road mobile ICBMs remain in garrison until tensions merit dispersal to the countryside. Therefore, the survivability of Russia's road mobile ICBMs depends heavily on adequate intelligence and advance warning of a pending attack. Furthermore, their dispersal in a crisis complicates command and control, making the steps to prepare for a launch far more time-consuming. The primary disadvantage of attacking Russia's road mobile ICBMs is that targeting dispersed road mobile ICBMs can be difficult, while the primary defense of Russia's silo-based ICBMs is their hardness. The primary defense of road mobile ICBMs is their ability to leave their bases and disperse, in Russia's case, into the surrounding forest, with sufficient warning time and insufficient satellite visibility for the attacking country to track mobile launchers. The area that road mobile ICBMs could be in would be too large to be bombarded by America's nuclear arsenal, thus ensuring that Russia's road mobile ICBMs would survive an attack. Furthermore, not sufficiently destroying Russia's road mobile ICBMs in a first strike would put America's civilian population at high risk, given that the SS-25 and SS-27 ICBMs carry only one high-yield warhead of probably limited accuracy. A recently declassified CIA document concluded that Russian war planners treat these 45 ICBMs as counter-value weapons, aimed at high population centers in the continental US.
And as you can clearly see, it has a majority of the major cities in America targeted, you know.
taking this vulnerability analysis into account. U.S. war planners would target Russia's road mobile ICBM force using Trident II submarine-launched ballistic missiles, armed with 475 kiloton W-88 warheads. Aim points would be limited to the road mobile SS-27's operating bases and garrison targets. 2 475 kiloton ground bursts would be assigned to each of the 7 operating bases and 20 garrisons. In all, an attack would consist of 54 warheads, with a total yield of 26.7 megatons. Warheads would reach their targets within 15 minutes after launch, with a near 100% predicted kill rate, due to the fact that both locating and retargeting dispersed SS-27s in real time appears to be problematic. U.S. war planners would avoid targeting dispersed road mobile launchers.
Salaki. Coming back to the book of Isaiah. I'm going to go to the book of Isaiah chapter 13. And I'm going to start at verse 4. It says, "The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord, and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land." And yes, this is what it's talking about, these ICBM missiles. This is what the Lord is going to use to destroy America, along with, when our Lord Yahweh Shai returns, along with the angels, the fire from those chariots. But primarily, this is the instrument that the Lord is going to use, Again, Slakia. And the headline reads, "Judgment on the day of the Lord." Verse 6, "Howl ye, for the day of the Lord is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt. And they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrow shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate. He shall destroy the sinners thereof off of it. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. And I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and I will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. Therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall be moved out of her place, and the day, Slaki, in the wrath of the Lord of hosts, and the day of his fierce anger." And yes, this is going to be a very, very terrible day, just this one day alone, when World War III is officially declared. This is going to be, everything is going to happen at once, once the mark of the beast is fully implemented, everything is going to speed up. America and Russia are the primary, players during World War III. Of course, you have their allies as well, but they're the main two countries that are going to be at war with each other, because America is going to, not America, Slovakia, the Lord is going to use Russia to destroy America. And yes, Russia and various parts of the world are also going to be hit with missiles, but America is going to be the only land that's going to be left completely desolate, The land of Israel, just to throw that in there, the land of Israel, it's going to get hit with missiles, but it won't be left desolate. Our land is going to be cleansed of those bastards that are in our land. Now, before I continue the video, I'm going to go to Isaiah chapter 24. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 24 and verse 20, and it says, "The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and shall fall and not rise again." And yes, again, the impact from these missiles is going to be so devastating that it's going to cause the entire earth to shake, That's how devastating this is, and this is serious because the Lord, he's angry, He is extremely angry. And then, to back that up, I'm going to go to the book of Psalms, chapter 7, and verse 11. And it says, Yahweh judges the righteous, Yahweh judgeth the righteous, and Yahweh is angry, and Yahweh is angry with the wicked every day. And yes, the Lord is angry. Our Lord Yahweh Shai is angry, with the wicked, because America is an extremely wicked place, Verse 12, "If he turn not, he will whet his sword. He that bent his bow and made it ready, he also he hath also prepared for him the instruments of death. He ordaineth his arrows against the persecutors." And again, in this video, this man, So in this video, this man is describing, the different missiles that will be used from America and Russia, and, the exact devastation that they're going to do, the impact that they're going to cause, This is a very, very serious thing, It's like, I'm going to let the rest of this play.
Men over 50 whose prostate is choking their urethra need to see this. Here's a picture of my dad from the
In all, an estimated 746 U.S. warheads would be used in the counterforce portion of Major Attack Option 1, although the U.S. PSYOP counterforce plan avoids military targets near civilian areas. The pure devastation from this attack would be massive. Earlier, I mentioned the importance of the term ground burst detonations. A ground burst detonation is a nuclear explosion in which a weapon is detonated on or slightly above the surface of the Earth. Under these conditions, the total area affected by the blast is less extensive than that for an airburst, but the resulting radioactive fallout is massive. As a result, an estimated 8 million Russians would be dead within 45 minutes after launch. Furthermore, due to the high levels of radioactive fallout, radiation sickness, starvation, and other environmental factors, U.S. war planners estimate that an additional 10 million casualties would occur over the next 2 weeks. Now let's take a look at the second and most devastating portion of Major Attack Option 1, counter-value targeting. In the counter-value portion of Major Attack Option 1, the primary goal is to kill civilians and damage economic infrastructure. As such, the counter-value targeting approach prioritizes large cities and industrial centers, targets that a country inherently values. Counter-value targeting is considered easy and cheap. Cities and factories are hard to protect, easy to identify, and are stationary, meaning the technical requirements of counter-value targeting are few, as are the number of nuclear weapons the United States needs to destroy its Russian targets. Though many experts believe that the United States or Russia would not engage in counter-value targeting in a hypothetical nuclear exchange for the following reasons. First, targeting cities just to kill civilians is extremely and plainly illegal, ending millions of lives.
Okay, so that part right there is just crap, because once these missiles are launched, here in America, it doesn't matter about it being illegal. Millions and millions of civilians are gonna die. So, that's just false. So, continuing on.
With the push of a button is typically frowned upon. Secondly, counterforce targeting would better achieve the goal of winning a nuclear war. While a large portion of Russia's nuclear forces would certainly survive a first strike, over time, concealed nuclear weapon delivery systems like bombers and even submarines would have to reveal themselves. As a result, the US would probably be able to take out a large portion of Russia's nuclear forces to secure a military defeat eventually. Lastly, counter-value targeting on the part of the US or Russia would be suicidal. In other words, if the US decided to target Russian cities, it would be risking the lives of tens or hundreds of millions of its citizens and the destruction of its economy.
In which it is, and that's exactly what's going to happen, because just like it said, part 4, everybody dies. That's pretty much what they're going to do. Even if this is their exact plan of what they're going to do, which, who knows, only the Lord knows, but even if this is their plan to target, their nuclear capabilities, they won't have time, because that's ultimately what America is going to do. They're going to try to take out Russia, but again, that's leaving them defenseless.
As of 2010, the U.S. explicitly states in its nuclear policy that it won't engage in counter-value targeting. But if American cities were targeted in a global nuclear exchange, the U.S. would...
And they are. Global U.S. cities are targeted.
Certainly respond in kind. Even though a counter-value attack would be unlikely, how would the U.S. carry out one? What cities and how many Russian civilians would be targeted? Which weapons in America's nuclear arsenal would be used? What would the European continent look like going forward? And most importantly, how many Russian civilian casualties could we expect from a counter-value thermonuclear attack on Russia?
All right. So, pretty much, again, he was describing what would be America's plan. So, because again, I'm not sure. Well, none of us, that aren't actually in the military, that are high-ranking generals, we don't know exactly what's going to take place. Again, only the Lord really knows exactly how he wants this to play out. But this is what's going to take place. I'm going to go to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38. And I'm going to start at verse I'm going to start at verse 1, then I'm going to jump down. And it says, prophecy about Gog and future invasion of Israel. And it says, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, thus saith the Lord of power, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. I will bring thee forth and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarma of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee, And Russia's allies are also going to help them, during the time of World War III. Because ultimately, even America's allies, they're going to help, but ultimately they're going to turn on America and destroy her, So I'm going to bring that out in the second part to this. And Slakia. Verse 7, be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them, Russia's allies. After many days thou shalt be visited, in the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword, and is gathered out of many people, against the mountains of Israel, which have always been waste, but it is brought forth out of the nations. Slakia. And they shall dwell safely, all of them. And again, that may not be exactly what I wanted, but again, the point I brought out, this is the Lord using Russia, ultimately to destroy America. Of course, again, the main person that is going to destroy America and ultimately all of these nations is going to be our Lord Yahweh Shai, but just on a lower level, the Lord is going to use Russia to do it, and Russia is Gog and Magog, So I'm going to jump down to verse 10. I'm going to jump down to verse 10. It says, thus saith the Lord power, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought, which that evil thought is Russia invading America, which they're going to do, because America is going to be left completely defenseless, because once World War III happens, all of America's troops are going to be sent over, to the Valley of Jehoshaphat, which is the Lord's judgment, Yahweh Shaphat in the Hebrew. They're going to be sent over to the Middle East, ultimately to die, because once, this draft takes place and all these men that get drafted, men and women, might I add, that get drafted, that get sent overseas, they're not going to come home. They're going to die, So that's leaving America completely defenseless, There won't be any troops over here to defend the land. Verse 11, and thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls, and having neither bars nor gates, to spoil, to take a spoil, and to take a prey, to turn thine hand upon the desolate place, to take to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods, that dwell in the midst of the land. And yes, the American people, they're at risk. They just think everything is going to be fine. America's, the greatest country in the world, when ultimately they don't understand that this land is going to be left desolate. That this country, first, before it gets destroyed, is going to be left completely defenseless. So those foreign troops are going to come over here, and the only thing that's going to be on their mind is to kill everyone they see. So America is going to be completely defenseless on that aspect. And then again, I'm going to bring this out, just a couple more scriptures. Slakia. Then I'm going to close. This is the book of Slakia. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 34 and verse 4. And it says, all the host of heaven shall be dissolved. Slakia, I'm going to go to it. You know what? I'm going to start at verse 1. And it says, Yahweh's wrath against nations. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 34 and verse 1. Come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, all that come, Slakia, all that are, Slakia, all that is therein, the world, and all things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. He hath utterly destroyed them. He hath delivered them to the slaughter. Their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood. And all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their host shall fall down as a leaf of the vine, Slakia, and as a falling fig from the fig tree. Verse 5, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment. And yes, that's what the Lord is going to do. He's going to judge these nations, starting with Esau, Edom, because that's pretty much what he is describing. And again, that sword, again, is those ICBM missiles, And it says, verse 6, the sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the fat, and with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of kidneys of rams. For the Lord hath a sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. Yes, the Lord is going to take Esau, Edom out, because of the wickedness that he has done, not only upon the earth, but primarily, to the Lord's people, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, the nation of Israel, the 12 tribes. The Lord is going to judge Esau for that. Slakia. And then I'm going to end it on this. This is the book of Isaiah. Lucky, I'm going to start at verse 14. It's the book of Isaiah 66 and 14, and it says, When ye see this, your heart shall rejoice, and your bones shall flourish like an herb, and the hand of the Lord shall be known toward his servants, and his indignation toward his enemies. For behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with Slakia. For behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many, And that's what, that guy was distraught. It's like, that's what that guy was describing, just on how many Russians would die. But ultimately, it's not just how many Russians will be killed. It's about how many people all over the world will be killed during this war, Like it said, the slain of the Lord shall be many. So we can't even, necessarily put a number on how many people the Lord is going to kill, because it's going to be many, So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. Till the next time I say Shalom.